Yourself?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I've worn a grey shirt today. We're all usually black and white. I don't know if you noticed.
I did.
To just indicate that that's how I kind of feel. I'm a
Okay.
shade of grey at the moment. Like if you see me, if you want to get the bell ready, teaching
It's
or
gone.
ding, or if I, met you in the street, then you'd have the same light as usual. Mr. Positive plus exclamation mark. But this last week, I find it actually hard to explain. It's different to, we've spoken about this roller coaster, haven't we, of emotion with this whole COVID. It's not like something's happened. It's a collection of things. And I felt it coming on last week, and I've got really familiar over the years of grief and when it rears its ugly head. And it marks 14 years at the end of this month that my mum passed away suddenly. And it's not like I have those dates in the diary. We don't, light a candle. We don't do anything as such. We actually celebrate the birthdays and everything. But when something as traumatic as that has happened, you don't forget the time of year. And I didn't see a picture, didn't read anything. It just sort of comes over you. It's really hard to explain. And then there's a number of other things. I had like a couple of later nights where I stayed up watching something real late, and then I was sorting out some photos one night real late. And I think a few things then build up, and it's almost like walking around. The only way I can explain it, with a cloud over your head. A cloud with you. But the difference between, when we said like, oh, you're getting a little bit stressed about, COVID and work or whatever else, it's completely different to that. It's your brain, or I find my brain stops functioning. I at times I can't write properly, can't speak properly, can't think properly. You just go into this really weird state. And I felt it coming on last week, got to this weekend, and like I was probably running on a half tank Sunday, and then Monday it was like just complete plummet down. By the end of the day, I got myself back up, did a bit of teaching. Lauren's really supportive and things like that helped. And then Tuesday, I would say I was about 50-50. Like I'd have a moment all right, a moment not all right. And like now I'm probably back to about 3/4 full. I feel like I've, jumped out. But looking back, I would have been in it for a bit longer and not realised. And you can overthink things. You start thinking about things that you've laid to rest so you shouldn't be thinking about, and everything else. So I wouldn't usually share it, but I just thought, if we talk about everything and anything, and not that I thought about it, but it ties in. It was Mental Health Week at the weekend, wasn't it? Or day for nationally. I just thought of sharing it.
No, I appreciate it, because that's how I say I felt run down for 2 weeks, and I did. I had a cold, but everything you've just said, pretty much word for word, I've gone through the same thing, and I'm very aware of it, that it happens to me seasonally. So like I've talked about, enjoying the sun, and I'm very conscious of when I think the last week of sun has come and gone, and that we're going to now just be in rain for the next 4 months. I'm all right with it, but for a week, my body kind of rejects it and says no, and it throws a bit of a tantrum. And that headspace thing that you said is very true. And I don't know if it's something that we should resist. I guess sometimes you just want to be 100% all the time, and that's just not the reality of life, is it? We're just not. You're not going to be up all the time.
No, like my experience, there's something happening. Like I said, this is different to someone banging into your car and you're getting pissed, or so. This is really different to anything like that. It's almost like there isn't an external force that causes it. It's an internal thing. Yeah. And looking back, the mistakes I've made is trying to plow on through it, like to keep going. Like Sunday, I had a load of things I could have got ready for the week ahead. I had it all planned, what I was going to do, everything else. I basically just sat there all evening watching American football. And that's what I needed at that time. And yet, like Monday, I needed to do the class just to switch out of it, just to have a time away from it. And that was part of the coming out of it. I think if you overthink these things, or feed it too much. Like I've had a lot of experience with my father who dealt with, severe depression, and had a lot of experience talking to different people about it. And one, like the Mind group, when we went to see a counsellor there, he said that you got to be careful you don't feed these things. And it's like people going to the doctors. It's like people ill and things like that. You can feed it, and yeah, that's what I think from my own personal experience, you've really got to watch.
Yeah, it's also cycles, isn't it? Because I'd call us both type A personalities. We're quite, we go get it. We're happy to work. We're happy to put in the grind. And then sometimes the problem with that is like you said, you need a day of doing absolutely nothing. But you can talk to yourself at the end of that day and go, well, that was a waste of a day. You could have got this done. You could have got that done. And you start like down talking yourself. And
Yeah,
then that puts you in a cycle, because then you feel guilty that you didn't do all the stuff. Then you feel like you were being lazy. And instead of, like you said, you do a little bit to just pull you out of it for a moment to like ease you back into norm, you then either go really hard again and stress yourself out, or you loop back to feeling crap. And you do that again. And then you end up in like a 4 days of just not pulling yourself out of it. And I think that's where, I don't know, but I think that's where a lot of depressions and mental issues can begin. It
yeah.
seems like a small thing and it snowballs.
The experience with my dad, like I would say, like I've seen it, pretty brutal firsthand. Well, I have for a number of years, and I would say I've probably all of us at some point deal with a bit of mental health, mental depression, or whatever else.
Yeah.
But that chronic, or whatever the word is, that severe depression where medication is needed, or further help, is the guy, whoever it was we saw, was explaining, it might have been another guy, how like my dad was dealing with things that were issues like we all deal with, be it, his thing was my grandparents, his mum and dad were getting elderly, and the dementia and things that come with that. And we're all dealing with something in the background, aren't we? Be it kids, be it business, or whatever else. So that has a toll. You're on edge. And then he was explaining, like, the death of my mum is what puts you over the edge. And something like that changes your circumstances. So we might have a bit of a problem with, or for instance, take my dad's problem with the grandparents, my grandparents, his mum and dad, but he could then go back home. He could vent it off to my mum. They could chat. They could, everything else. And then you're back in like your secure bubble. And what this guy was explaining is he didn't have that secure bubble anymore, because that bubble had gone, and he was still getting all the other crap. And it's like there's no shield now. You're just getting full on radiation of it.
There's no safe space.
Yeah, and that's something I think people have to really watch out for in real traumatic, or like for instance losing a partner, or God forbid, a child, or something like that. It changes your day to day. Yeah, I think until that point you should really sort of, for a better way, suck it up and find your way through it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've tried to be really active in practicing gratitude recently, and to the point of writing things down. And it's little things, like the other day I got to go to the dentist. I actually managed to get an appointment, and I hate the dentist. I can't stand it. But I wrote down, I'm grateful that we have these services and I can go and get that done. And it's a little thing, but then it just stops you from becoming someone who looks at the world through a lens of, this is shit, this is crap, this is going wrong. And I think that's a really important part of it, is you reprogram your mind to how you look at the world, because you can choose to see it one way, you can choose to see it another. Extreme circumstances like a partner dying, it's very different. But I think in our general day-to-day, it's very easy to get caught up in a negative cycle. And I think something like just practicing some regular gratitude for the little things in life. And that's something COVID taught us when it all first came around, and we realized just how fragile everything we have is. And we're not as secure and safe as we all thought we were. I think, we take it for granted sometimes. We just got to be aware of it. But there's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with being upset from time to time. I think